Okay, you guys. I don't know how many of you know me. You know who I am. I mean, I grade papers, right? So yeah. That's what I do. That's my job. But I'm no professional. I'm not a pastor. So forgive me for my not pastorismness or whatever, okay? But I did teach school for 10 years, so I've had somebody tell me that I talk down to them, so please don't feel like I ever do that. Just pretend like you're 13 and we'll all just do great, okay? So, yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm used to, you know. But I did do that. I taught public school anywhere from kindergarten to high school for 10 years. So I did whatever they needed me to do ultimately. I mean, I had a certification anyway. And I coached volleyball and track. And anyway, I've done a little bit of a lot of things. And so anyway, therefore I get to do a little bit of a lot of things. But jack of all trades, master of none, right? Isn't that the saying? I'm full of little quotes too. So, but anyway, so that's my background as far as that goes. I have a whole lot of other background. I'll tell y'all someday. We don't have time for all of that. But anyway, so I get to do chapters 6 and 8. When you look at 8, it's one page. So, you know, that's why they just grouped it together. And it does pretty much go together. But it makes no sense to spend 45 minutes on a page of information. It's simple. So we'll get through this. I'm really bad about not praying. I just go. So we'll at least pray for a second here. Okay. So, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity. Lord, please divide the knowledge into your truth, Lord. Let it be your words and not mine, not my knowledge, but yours, Lord. Thank you for getting all these people here safely, Lord. Let them learn something throughout the night, and to get everybody home safe. And we're just eternally grateful for you and Jesus and what you did for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so when I was doing this and I typed the top line, the glorious church, the bride made ready. I'd never read the bride made ready until today, and I was like, oh, you could do a whole lesson just on that phrase alone, right? I'm picturing brides in muddy dresses and this is what we look like now, and then then we get to this state, and then anyway, but it's too hard to do all of this. So I'm gonna do half and half. I'm gonna do part of the book, pieces of it, and then we'll go on some rabbit trails from there. But the first section is the church, the family of God. So it's talking about God's household. And hold on, I am gonna move for a second so I can keep y'all on track. Okay, so God's household. What does that look like? Or when you think of God's household, what do you picture?
Pearly gates.
Yeah, I mean a mansion, a pearly gate. I mean heaven of some sort. I mean
gold roads.
Yeah, exactly. This is just I'm gonna skip around a lot, and I don't like how I have this on my computer here. So, the first quote in here is, "Now therefore you're no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God." So we are members of his household after we accepted Jesus into our lives. So his household, I'll go back to that later. I mean, do we picture some, family, with the dog and the, is that the wholesome household that you picture as a regular household, maybe? This little picture's got Jesus at the bottom there with the little kid and the dog listening to the family. Okay? Or do you picture all of the people of the world being part of God's family in his household? All those people are going to be there, right? I mean, from every creed, race, denomination, nation. And then like some of you said, it's going to be some kind of something. We don't know, but something magical looking, amazing gold,
Jerusalem.
something like that, right? Exactly. So, when we talk about this, what does it look like? Okay, we are brought into the household of God. So, His household is, it's made up of all of us. A household is all the functioning things of a house, right? Your house, your tools, your whatever is in your home, whatever you use. His terms, it also includes servants, anybody associated with the house, anybody has anything to do with the house is his household. So that gets pretty massive when we're talking about God, right? And we've all been called in. He then calls us children of God once we accept, right? We're not just, I used to think, we're all kids, everybody's a child of God, right? Because God made everybody. But later you grow up and you realize that that's not the case. If they don't accept Him, then they're not, right? So with the sonship, let's see, if you have your books and you're sort of following, you can go ahead and go to page 47. It's going to be the next main deal where there's going to be a lot to talk about. But when you're talking about sonship, so in the sonship, there's privilege. So you're special because you're the child of God, right? You are a prince or princess. You are royalty, right? So that is privilege. So we get to worship. We get the fancy. We get the things. We get to go to heaven. We get a lot of things, right? It is a great honor and privilege to be associated with the house. But also with privilege, with sonship, with citizenship comes responsibility, right? We have to do some things to keep up the house, right? With the love, okay, so God loved us enough to give us these, to allow us to be sons and daughters. We don't deserve it. He loved us enough for all this. Okay, what I want to go to that's off a little bit is, what about those who haven't lived it? What about those who haven't accepted Christ? What about those people and their houses? How did they grow up? We all grew up in a way, and we could have grown up in a bazillion different ways. Poor, rich, privileged, not privileged, in a nice place, in a not a nice place. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways. But what about those who haven't lived or aren't where we are now? Like, what is their background? Where are they coming from? How are their views going to clash with ours? We'll talk about all these. What about the inevitable offense? Because there's going to be offense whenever we're talking about things that people don't have, or there's going to be, jealousy. There's going to be, you're telling me something I don't want to hear. Even amongst Christians, it can get really bad. And then how do we function in this environment? So what do we do? So let's see. We could have, some people may have come from something like this, right? None of us are that privileged. I don't know. That's pretty. But some of us could have, right?
I wish.
Some of us could have.
That's in
Okay.
Seattle.
Or we can go the other extreme,
Oh, that's my house.
right? somebody may have come from places like this.
Mexico.
That's South America, or places like that where it's warm enough that you don't need walls necessarily. You just need a roof, right? I mean, and they been to Chile where they had solar panels and places that literally looked like this, and that was their power. That was everything. That was what they were. But yeah. So what happens?
So happy.
Okay, let's see. The people, so we're here, I think we take for granted that we know about how all these things work. We can get to where we need to go. It's no big deal to go to the store. It's no big deal to do all these things. Where did some of these people come from, and did they really know love? So when we look at them or we're trying to talk to them, we have to kind of try to understand their background. So I was going to put up a bunch of pictures just like that would invoke, just emotion. Like if you have political figures, like what do you think? What's your first thought when you see some political figures that you oppose? What does that emotion bring up? If you see a little baby, a newborn baby, what emotion does that bring up? If you see kids, like thug type kids stealing something and you witness it, what do you feel? Okay? All of those people are still just people, right? But it really stirs a lot of emotion. So how did they get there? What did they do? So in order to deal with them, it helps me to understand or to think back what caused them to do this. How did they get to this spot? They weren't born doing bad things, or they weren't born being a saint. I mean, everybody's born and they or pushed in some direction by their environment, by just natural circumstances. I mean, there's a zillion different things that lead somebody to be the way they're rejected. Okay, what about their families? So households in the U.S., and I know it's really hard to see for you guys, have totally changed from 1960 to 2023. We have the kids living with totally grandparents. Okay, 16%. I mean, that's crazy, right? Let's see if I can. I can't do it. All right, single parents. Okay, well that number it went up, but not crazy, I don't guess. Married parents look at the married parents. I mean, that's just wild, okay? But that's just society, right? But if you grew up on one extreme or the other, you're going to have completely different set of different values, different life experiences, you're going to understand the value of work, or you didn't have to work, or you grew up hard, or you grew up easy. So all of these things are going to shape how you see things, how you feel, how you deal with things. So we've got to kind of go back and try to understand a little bit from people in order to deal with them. But the beauty of it is we are all different, right? We all came from some unique background. We all have different experiences. So we can reach those people, different people. Because this crazy thing here, I gotta get to some other slide here. Here, let's see. This part. Okay. Humans can realistically maintain a small, tight-knit circle of around 3 to 5 close relationships for optimal mental and emotional well-being, though some studies suggest a limit of around 150 meaningful connections. That's not close friends. Right. That's just, hey, this is the guy I work with. Hey, this is whoever. I know you above your name, but you're not my best buddy, right? We just don't have the mental capacity to function in life if that's all we did was maintain friends. It's work. It is work. Not that it's bad work, but it is to know somebody and to interact and, not have them feel left out or what. I mean, it takes a lot. So with that being said, think about your pastor, okay? They're shepherding a flock of how many people, okay? So they have a huge responsibility, right? And can they do it all themselves? They can't do it all themselves. So that's why we're here. So tonight we're learning, right? We're learning how to figure this stuff out. But they need people to reach people. So we need to spread out like a spider web, right? And these people reach those people. These people maintain these relationships. These people, okay, be in charge of different things. Okay? So we are to use our gifts in our sonship. So part of our responsibilities in our household is to do things. We've got to do things, okay? What things do we do? How do we know what to do? Your parents don't.
We just jump in and do it. Whatever.
You do.
You see something, you do it.
You see something, you do it. You walk by, there's something that needs to be done, you do it. we ultimately try to operate in our giftings, right? We try to use what he gave us that we're talented at, that we can operate in. We try to fit in where we can or do whatever we can. But there's a place for everybody to do something.
There is.
And if you don't know what to do, like you said, just do something.
Just do it.
Start out doing something, right? And then you'll find your path. You'll find your way. But there's always something that can be done. So some of us grew up with that, with responsibilities. Some people that maybe lived in that big house over there didn't have maybe some of those responsibilities, right? Somebody else did those things. But even in the Bible times, right, even the servants, even everybody, that was all God's house, right? So everybody is to come under that. All right, we've been talking about love is what ties it all together. Love is what drives us to help at all. Okay, so the 4 different types of love. That storge, familial affection. Okay, your family, your friends. Phileo is friendship. It's just being friendly. That kind of love. Eros is marriage type, relationship love. And agape love, which is the most important or the largest encompassing love, which is the highest, most complete form of affection. So God's love for us, he loves everybody no matter what they did, no matter who they are. He wants everybody reconciled back to him, right? So when we look at those people that we go, ugh, that's what agape. We gotta get that in us in order to have any kind of help for those people. If they're ever to change, or if they're ever to be better, somebody's got to show them the light, right? God can touch them. He can touch them out of nowhere. I mean, he can make a donkey talk. He can do whatever. But we are supposed to be the light. We're supposed to be showing people how to be, right? Or how the love in us is what should make them want to do something different, Like with kids in school, my favorite kids were the kids that everybody, you hear coming up, the other teachers are like, oh, watch out for that one because that one's got this and that one's good. It's just like, oh, you're going to get so-and-so this year. Watch out, I love those kids because that was a challenge. And there was always something about those kids. You go back to, there's a reason they're the way they are, They have to take care of siblings at home before they come to school. They didn't eat before they came to school. They're sleeping in a bed with 4 siblings and have to be peed on every night. I mean, that's kids, And you wonder why they come to school and are falling asleep or aren't ready or don't have their stuff or whatever. But there's a reason, And if you can invest a little time in those kids or those people, whatever their issue is, and show them that somebody genuinely has an interest in them, they will light up. You can see people change. You can see, especially the kids, they're bored. They're, it's why they act out, or there's a reason, So a lot of times they're super smart and we're bored, So it was like, okay, I'm going to give you these things to do while everybody else does this. You show me that you can do that. Verbally, tell me what the answers are. And okay, I get it. The object is for them to know and understand. The object is not to pass or fail, an A or an F. I mean, the whole object is for them to learn. And so with this, the 4 loves, so I didn't know C.S. Lewis, I have a lot of his books, but not all of them. Anyway, here, the maturing process we will ideally go through. First, we'll make a choice to show love, especially the storge and the phileo to others. As we do, our hearts will align more closely with God's. So a lot of these things, we're not just going to like, poof, here, we got it. We're going to be perfect, We're going to have to work on it. But God will open it. God will open our hearts. He'll soften our hearts in order to get to the agape, okay? Because it's not automatic. We do have, there's people that just, Christians, that we, okay? They have good intentions, okay? But that... but we're all different, right? And it just is the way it is, which kind of leads us to, and I'm gonna show you something here in a second. This is in your book, and that's what's on page 47, okay? The strength of our relationship with God can actually be measured by our relationship with other believers. That hurts, right? Because if I feel that way against another believer, if I feel like, oh, they're on my last nerve, or just the person that cut you off in traffic or whatever, they could be a Christian, but you're mad at them, right? I mean, it's natural. So we haven't arrived. Okay? I know I haven't arrived. I mean, but we haven't, if we are still feeling those feelings and we're still doing those things, we're not agape, right? We're not. So
We're not ready.
it's all something to work on, okay? And in your book, of course, it's got all the things. Stay free from strife and division. Stay at peace. Stay joyful. All the things. It's telling you what to do. It's telling you how to deal with the things, what you're gonna exhibit, all the things in families. I mean, with this 3 to 5 people, you know them the best, and ideally, you should just be in perfect harmony with those people all the time, right?
That's the goal.
Yeah, no, that's the problem, right? Is we know them the best. So, do we know all the little things that grate on your nerves? Do we know do they know the things that grate on our nerves? Do they do it on purpose sometimes? Do they, it's the daily, when you're around people every day, all the time, there's going to be things, right? There's just going to be things. So, it's just just a reminder of, some people, it's real easy to be super friendly. I guess the perfect example is the mom's getting the kids ready to go to church, and the kids are, the mom at the morning is, do this, get ready, wear your shoes, I can't believe you. And as soon as you walk in the church door, oh, hi, how are you? Everything's great. It's been a beautiful day. All of that, right? Isn't that the perfect example? I mean,
Jake last Sunday.
This is reality, right? I mean, but we gotta, there's a whole lot. There's more lessons than we have time for. But, okay. That we're saved and brought into the Christian family, we have to face up to the reality that we are not mature, perfect, or without fault, even though we would love to be. Okay. It's giving you quotes from Gandhi. It's going all kinds of things in here. Okay, let's go to chapter 8, which is one whole page. The church being the field of God. Okay, so we're God's fellow workers. If you are God's field, God's building. Okay. In here, of course, it's the full quote is I don't know that I typed that out. Yeah, on yours I did. Who then is Paul and who is Apollos, but ministers through whom you believed, as the Lord gave to each one? I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. So then neither he who plants is anything, nor he who waters, but God who gives the increase. Now he who plants and he who waters are one, and each one will receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are God's fellow workers, you are God's field, you are God's building. Okay, so somebody can do a lot of work, okay? Somebody can do some different work, okay? But who is the one that makes it all happen? God is, right? Who is the one that makes a perfect human being? Okay, God, right? I've talked to so many people, and I don't know why it comes up lately, but miscarriages and things like that. Like, it's such a common, normal thing. There's a million things that have to line up for a human being to be brought into the world, you guys. I mean, it's God. It's all God. And we have to understand that. So, with this part, you can, do everything you know how to do in your own power, but will it always be fruitful? It won't, will it? So it's got to be with God. It's got to be in God's will. It's got to be, you'll get lucky and you'll do some things, and it may seem successful for the moment, but in the end, it's not going to if it's not in God's will, it's not going to work out. It's not going to be good in the long run. So you can be, but we all need these people, right? They're all part of the thing. So you may be a farmer, so you may be the one that plows. You may be an evangelist or a pastor who plows a lot, okay? So you may be doing a whole lot of work, okay, plowing ground. This work is hard, isn't it? I mean, if you were to do that with a horse and plow, it's even harder, right? This is relatively easy, okay? But this is hard work. Does this person, if this was a separate person, do they see the end result always? No. They're not, because if nothing else happens, this is a whole lot of work, and okay, I don't know what may happen, may not happen, okay? But that's their calling. There's some people that are called to evangelize, that are called to spread the word. They may encounter really hard times. They're going to be the ones that are encountering the animosity or the hate or think of a street preacher who's going to get yelled at and cussed at and everything else. Those are the people that are plowing ground, right? I mean, they're making it ready, and then somebody comes along, okay? You can be this person, or you can be this person that does it one by one, right? And that's okay, because we're all called to do different things. We're all called because we're all different. We all came from these different backgrounds. We know and can reach people differently. That's right? Mm-hmm. So, hey, that's a copper shovel, y'all. That's like super special because it does something to the ground. Anyway, that's a side note. I'll tell you someday. Okay, so there's a lot. There's a lot to do, right? A whole lot to do. Now, one day, maybe it'll look like that if somebody plants it, right? If somebody plants the seeds, if somebody's out there telling the word, if you're out there living your life and being the example, you're planting seeds. You may just say something to somebody someday off the cuff, just, hey, how you doing? Enough that they feel like somebody cares. And that's all it takes sometimes, okay? But we need to listen to the Holy Spirit. We all need to be seeking the gifts, our gifts, seeking knowledge and wisdom and everything that goes along with that in order to plant the seeds that we're supposed to plant, right? And before those little plants come up, somebody has to water them, right? Hopefully, nature waters them, but if not always, right? And we have to have help sometimes. So you could be the commercial waterer, okay? You could be doing a lot, or maybe you're just a sprinkler doing little sections at a time, or maybe you're one of these guys, okay? Or if you don't like those, there's some unique guys. Some of us are those, okay? So those are fun, okay? But we all have our unique way to do it, right? So we may water kids. We may water bigger kids. We may water elderly people. We're the ones that have to go do it, right? So the field is what God expects from his church, what to do. So all these things, the planting and the sowing and the watering and the caring for and the weeding and all those things have to be done by who? Us, right? There's the harvest is great, but the workers are few, right? There's never enough, okay? There's a lot of churches, but are they filled? Yeah, or are they on the right track? Or are they, I always told people, like, I don't care what church you go to, just go to church. Just go somewhere, and God will show you eventually where you're supposed to be. If that church isn't quite, the more you learn, the more you'll straighten out, But if we've got way more people than we have churches, and we got a lot of little churches, but there's way more people, there's so much to do, okay? And I'm not trying to put pressure on because it gets overwhelming, because I can get overwhelmed if you think about all these things I got to do. I got to do this, and then I got to concentrate on that, and then I got to not be like this, and and you just, whoa, it's like my house. You look around and go, I don't even know where to start. I quit. It's hard. It can be really hard. Okay, so pick something and master it or get in a habit. Now, there's some of you know I'm a book person. I love books. Like, they're like children. I don't know. I
Our
feel
goal is to make our house look like the library from Beauty and the Beast.
that's my goal. One day, y'all just every wall, just books. Like, I don't know what it is about books. And not all books. We have to get rid of some books, but
We burned a few not too long ago.
they're special, okay? A couple of these books. So, Unoffendable is what Pastor recommended not too long ago, and I've just read or listened to on Audible as I'm driving around the first few chapters, and it's really good. It is very good, and it. If we're not offended, who can stop us? You know, if we don't get mad all the time about little things, what's going to hinder us? I mean, really, you just choose not to get mad about these things because those people that are making you mad are just people. And did they mean to do it half of the time? Probably not. You know, they're just doing their thing. We're self-absorbed, right? And we're just doing our little thing, and we're not considering 2 steps down the road what it could happen. And since we're so sensitive about a lot of things, society is telling us to be sensitive about a lot of things. It's all about you and your rights and your things and what you want. You know, we all have to cater to what you want, right? That's what they're teaching or trying to teach us or influence us. So we have to choose to not be that way. Okay, and it's hard. That's overwhelming too. Because if you're walking around on eggshells all the time about people, you just can't function. You don't want to go anywhere, you know. But that's kind of a devil's trick too. Like, it's just like, let's shut them down to where they can't say anything. They're afraid to say anything. They're afraid to stand up, right, and say the right thing because I'm gonna get bad's gonna happen to me. I'm gonna get sued, or I'm gonna get some bad publicity, and then I'm not gonna have my business anymore, or whatever. You can't make stands because you're afraid because everybody's saying, they're offended in somehow because you have to cater to that person. So anyway, but it's amazing. It really is a good book so far, and I'm only not even halfway through it yet. The Holy Hage, it's a Danish word that means hospitality, basically. And it's a really neat book about your home, your household, how to integrate entertaining people, basically. It's a lady that moved to like the Midwest, where it was snowing half the time or whatever. She's stuck in her house 6 months out of the year or whatever. And she's like, oh, I'm going crazy, like, what do I do? But anyway, it was the art of making your house hospitable, and not in a way that we think. Your house does not have to be perfect, okay? Your house does not have to be spick and span, no dust on the floor, no whatever, it doesn't have to be. It just needs to be warm enough, welcoming to people is all it has to be. You don't have to have a brand new couch. You don't have to have whatever. You can have whatever you have, but fun people are always fun to be around no matter what, right? You could be digging worms, or you could be at the mall or whatever. It doesn't matter. Fun people are fun to be around. So it's all about hospitality. It's about being welcoming and having people over and doing things. That lady, she was stuck in the winter. So it was like, hey, what do you have to do but come over and let's have soup, or let's do something, play games or do whatever. But anyway, it's a neat book. And then the Habits of the Household book is neat about, especially for families with kids, to create habits in your house that are make you more God-centered. So if it's just saying a 1-minute prayer every time you go out the door in the morning before you go to school or you go to work, as a family, whoever's going to work, you're leaving, just a 1-minute prayer. At dinner, each kid lights a candle and you say Christ is light. Like, it's something fun to do, but it's a reminder, like, hey, like a prayer, but the kids have an action to it. And how he used to be super frustrated with his kids and bath time, and the kids were everywhere and whatever. But once they started, creating some of these habits, then the house calmed down. Everything calmed down. His whole life lined back out, because you intentionally create a few habits here or there. And we get really busy, and we might have done these things a long time ago, but we don't do them now, or, hey, I never thought to do that, like, okay, let's do that. But it's all about creating little habits and making the household run like it ought to. If we live in the big fancy house and we got a person that does every job, does the house run pretty smooth? It does, doesn't it? So we're the people that have to do all the things. We got to volunteer. We got to do it. We got to get out there. We got to not have excuses. We can't burn ourselves out, but at the same time, I don't have time. Most of the time is not an excuse, right? I'm not making it a priority. And we've all done that. That's easy to say. I don't have time because I'm making more things important. Could I spend less time on Facebook? Could I spend less time walking around, messing with animals? Could I spend less time, doing stuff? I probably could, will I? Do I? And it's creating the habits, the priorities, not to be political, but the whole audits of the government and everything that's going on right now. Ooh, Pastor Dennis was telling me that the Assembly of God did that to people, making them write down every 15 minutes what they were doing, their accountability. Like the Assembly of God did that to their leaders, or to the first tier of people. They did that years ago and said, hey, what are we doing? What are you doing every 15 minutes? And they did that to them. It's just accountability, and it's really good to do. I did it the other day because I was like, well, I've got to find pockets of time that I can rearrange or do. What am I doing? Why is my day all of a sudden gone? And I feel like I've done 3 things, it's just but there's interruptions. Things need to be intentional. We've got to make the time to pray or to read or to, if it is make the time to go work or serve or whatever we have to do, we need to arrange our schedule in that way. My schedule is chaotic. There's something different going on all the time, so it's hard to have
like our current goat epidemic.
Goats get out every 5 minutes. Yeah, it's anyway, that's a whole nother stuff. But it's always something, especially the more property you have, the more living beings you're in charge of, the more stuff goes on, right? It's just, that's the way it is. But, you gotta, somehow, there's gotta be a better way. So I was just trying to figure it out. I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing this time? How, there were wasted hours in there, Just I'm not writing anything down. So I'm trying myself. I wish there was a person that would just come in and say, hey, you need to do this, 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 and this. And then I would just, okay, thanks. I'll just do that. But when you're the one that's got to figure it all out, it's not always that easy, right? Anyway, so the point is, this whole thing, we're God's household. He chose us. It's a privilege and an honor, and we are there to be a functioning participant in the household. We need to do our chores. So it's an honor to be able to do our chores, and it is, if we love, it's not work, it is fun. And the other part is making the close relationship that, it says in one of these chapters here somewhere about you should have a group, you should plug yourself in, and you should have a circle of friends, and you should have, and when you're serving with those people, nothing seems like work. It's just fun, it's just hey, let's go do this, and it's just an activity, and, but you got to find your spot, find the things that you're good at, so it's not work, That's what they say, do the thing that you love so that you'll never work a day in your life, So if we love God as much as we say we do, then we will do those things, and we'll find the people, and we'll serve, and we'll work. There's a place for everybody. God has a spot for every person, okay, everywhere. So let them jump in, have a grace for the new people that are just learning. They got to start somewhere. And that's part of the unoffendable part, it's just hey, they just don't know, they're babies. They're 40, but they're babies, you know what I mean? They don't know, and so I'm not a fan of the grace doctrine, you know, just, oh, grace covers everything, just do whatever you want, and just, you know, I'm not that, but correcting in love, setting up situations where people can be coached in a nice way, you know, like as a group, not just point them out by themselves, maybe, you know, it's just like, hey, you know, get 2 or 3 people together, even if you know they've known this thing for forever, preach the same thing, you know, so everybody, oh, okay, you know, I get it, you know, I mean, it just takes work, you know, and like I said, none of us have arrived, none of us are special in that respect. We've all got a lot to do, and like everybody says, this book really makes you go through it and is, you know, reflecting.
Yes.
So, anyway, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. Anybody else want to say anything or like volunteer to do anything or like sign you up for stuff? I've got a list. No, I'm kidding. But really, find the thing. Just, you know, find the thing that you can do, that you want to do, or God has for you to do, even if it's hard. You know, even if you got to learn 2 things, you know, to do it or whatever. But anyway, I guess that's it. If you